Hello, role-playing people, and in this episode of the podcast, I want to share with you this little thought I've been having regarding who Ecaterina the Wise really is in the video game Vampire the Masquerade Shadows of New York. A quick word of warning, this episode does contain some spoilers, so if you want to experience the game without knowing anything from other sources, sit this episode out. To the listeners still here, another word of warning, I will also be talking a lot about Vampire the Masquerade Redemption. Actually, I will be playing audio clips from that game, so if you haven't played it and you want to experience it without knowing anything from other sources, sit this one out. Okay, again, to the listeners who are still here, let's go right ahead and dive into the episode. I'll start off by saying Shadows of New York is great. I played it when it first came out, having already played Coteries, and I think it was a lot better than its predecessor for quite a few reasons. But what struck me the most, the moment that literally brought me to tears, it brought tears to my eyes, was the conversation between the protagonist, Julia, and Katherine Wiese, a.k.a. Ecaterina the Wise. Now, during that conversation, we find out this person isn't the real Ecaterina the Wise, but an impersonator, and we are even given a name. But it is my personal theory that even that identity is fake, and this Ecaterina is someone else entirely. In this regard, I've been checking out forums, posts, reviews, discussions, and so on, and it seems no one really shares my theory, so I'll just leave it here and ask you, role-playing people, what you think. I have evidence to back up my claims. It's not exactly clear, it's not flawless evidence, mind you. It's really more of a hunch, but I'm curious if you will be tempted to agree with me or tear my theory down completely. Let's go. We will revisit some conversations between Christoph and Aneska really quick from the video game Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, and their importance will be made clear in a little while. Here it is.
I have retrieved a sacred relic, milady, the amulet of St. Jude. I wouldst give it thee, milady, for thy devoted care.
I take no gifts. The Lord's work is favor enough.
It is the dearest of all I have, and thou art the dearest of all I have not. Please, keep this for my sake.
My lord, look thou at the locket thou didst give me. 'Tis the locket of St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes.
Thus fate makes a bitter mockery of our plight.
Say not so. Where the saints tread, hope follows. Perhaps St. Jude shall bring us hope past all hope. I pray we find a way.
I pray so too. Thy hopeful words have filled my heart with courage, and I can leave satisfied. My honored lady, my soul is lost. My cause is doomed, and I am damned. I go. I will not look upon thee again.
Then I pray thee, my lord, receive this token of me. 'Tis but a small amulet of St. Jude. Thou didst give it me, and it hath soothed the pangs of mine own heart that began when first I beheld thee, and a desperate, hopeless love did grow in my breast. Mayhap it will be some consolation to thy doomed cause.
Art thou deaf, woman? My cause is lost!
Therefore do I offer thee the amulet of Jude, patron saint of lost causes.
Oh.
Thou, sweet heavens, guide him.
So, this was a collection of Christoph and Aneska conversations, and it's obvious Saint Jude is an important figure for both of our protagonists. Now I will quickly take you into Ecaterina's Elysium in Shadows of New York, where Julia and Ecaterina are having the following conversation. The first one to speak is Ecaterina, and I will read to you. Here we go. Aren't they a happy bunch? All's well that ends well. People were getting nervous, like you really had some good cards to play. You're a poker player? Occasionally. It's a very socialite thing to do. Played with Jennifer Tilly once. Must be easy to keep a poker face with, you know. I know. It does help. And you do seem to know a lot about the cards other people are holding. Like all great games, poker does share some principles, lessons, and necessary skill sets with real life. I found a file about you in Kaiser's car. Seems like he's worried about you, the only unpredictable variable in his equations. Ah, I see. That's the one card I didn't predict you drawing. Speaking of not predicting something, when I was waking up tonight, I didn't expect a good friend would provoke me into coming here. Who might that have been? Not a lot of people in this room had an inclination to act friendly towards me in any way whatsoever. Sure looks like someone made a risky play. Even great players make dangerous plays sometimes. You know why? No idea. Boredom. It's boredom that gets to you. Even when you love the game, there's always this fear that it might turn into a perfectly predictable series of optimal plays. You're not really Katherine Wiese, are you? I don't know who else I could be. Let me phrase that differently then. You're not Ecaterina the Wise, the agitator of Prague, a Bruja elder causing turbulences all over the world, are you? That file must have been pretty thorough. Kaiser knows what he's doing. That's why I'm afraid of what he might do to me to get revenge. Rightfully so. Maybe I'll help him out in exchange for a favor. Snuffing out a La Sombra meddler. Strike a partnership. Promise to keep each other in check. If that was a joke, it wasn't very funny, and just so you know, I've made precautions. It was a bluff. Honestly, I expected more of a reaction. Kaiser's documents, did they mention anything about Ostrava? They say that's where you were born, as Hanna Urbanova. Was unlucky enough to immigrate to New York City at the perfect age and with a pretty accent approximating that of Ecaterina. Honestly explains a lot. Kadir told me that Aisling once organized a blood hunt after Ecaterina. That she was both a liability and too intertwined with the city's history to give up on her. The solution, you, were deemed the best possible compromise by all parties involved. The particulars aren't really described. It's theorized that blood magic was used, maybe flesh crafting. I do remember a few images, her accomplice's embrace, Christoph, the man who caught me, apologizing that the other broke my jaw as if somehow he wasn't to blame. Violent brainwashing. Alright, so long story short, Julia finds out that this Ecaterina is someone else. However, we can safely assume that even despite the so-called brainwashing, which should technically be the use of Dominate, the forgetful mind, this impersonator is old enough to be bored by a series of perfect plays, so she is undoubtedly a very, very good manipulator because of age and experience. Something else we care about is the breaking of the jaw and the fleshcraft bit. We can safely assume Ecaterina's deformities really wouldn't be easily reproduced through brute force, since the vampiric body would eventually heal them, even if we're talking aggravated damage here. So this statement doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't make sense with the Christoph we know from Redemption and the whole violent brainwashing idea. However, the fleshcraft idea is way more likely. But how would Christoph have access to fleshcraft? That's the one discipline he never learns throughout the game, the Vampire the Masquerade Redemption PC game. So I'll just play you the next conversation.
Is this true, Aneska?
Dear master, please allow me to split Christoph's joints and fleshcraft his bones into a throne for thy glory.
I am damned. In the holy orders, I once dreamed of the eternity of bliss that would be mine for my devotion to the Lord. Eternity is now mine, but not bliss. I shall live as long as a voivod, or as long as a voivod is pleased with me, or as long as a voivod is pleased to defile me. Heavenly bliss is not to be my lot, only empty torment. Yet still I dare to hope. Still I live.
Oh, Aneska.
I have lived for 50 years. All I loved are dead and gone. My beloved Kristoff has perished in the fall of Visserad. His sacrifice has preserved innocence in the world, and so I rejoice. But my suffering grows with each passing night. The Voivod takes great delight in seeing me rise with fresh hope, for it means he may once again drag me down. Should I surrender all hope and break as the Busa is broken, his pleasure would be at an end. Yet I will not abandon my hope, even though such hope fills his empty heart with glee, as it fills mine with pain.
I cannot bear it.
He has decreed that I inflict defilement on others by binding innocent men and women into the walls of his accursed cathedral of flesh. His power compels me, and I cannot resist a direct command. I can endure my own degradation, but I cannot abide to befoul others. I have learned well the lessons of corruption, for I have turned my hand to the corruption of the Voivod's resurrection. In the guise of offering wise counsel to Vukodlak, I poison his heart against those who could speed his resurrection. I accuse the faithful of disloyalty. I accuse the powerful of dangerous ambition. I praise the weak and ineffectual, like the merchant toad Orsi, as obedient servants. Vukodlak's fear of losing power is far greater than his hope of gaining new power, and so he believes every doubt I whisper in his ear. And so he crushed his own resurrection.
Wow. She sacrificed her innocence to stop Vukodlak.
Vukodlak's rage is implacable. His resurrection has failed so often that he blames all the Semitsi of Europe. He desires to move our entire cathedral of flesh to the new world where we may begin again. This vast undertaking will involve many shipments of native soil. I am well pleased, for this foolish migration shall take at least a century, and further postpone his resurrection.
Okay, so what we can clearly hear is that Aneska is still clinging on to hope, even against all odds, after having become the ghoul servant of Vukodlak, very much in step with Kristoff and Saint Jude, the patron saint of lost causes. They mention a lot throughout the game. So she does, over centuries of being a ghoul, become an amazingly skilled flesh crafter, since she is working on her master's cathedral. And she also grows into an amazing manipulator and deceiver, setting his efforts at resurrection, setting them back by centuries. Now, I take you back to the moment I feel is spoken truthfully in Shadows of New York between Julia and Ecaterina. Obviously, Ecaterina is a very deceptive character, but they are speaking about love, among other things, and Hanna Urbanova, Ecaterina's impersonator, is showing a very genuinely humane side to her, and then darts right back to being Ecaterina. Let's read this conversation. Okay, so the characters are outside of Elysium. Again, it might as well be Ecaterina speaking, sending you to die for her pipe dream, but that's the best option I can think of to get away from here with a goal in mind. I'm listening. Head to the Anarch-Free State of California. Look for a man called Giles. If you're alone, you might have to do a lot to prove yourself. If you're with your friend, you might have to do less. If you succeed, you might be able to fight for the noble cause of establishing New Carthage. It's hopeless, but no matter what tough act Kadir is putting on, still better than waiting for Kaiser to act. Might as well give it a shot, and then see what's next. Thank you. Don't thank me, you idiot. I'm sending you to the West Coast to die, just so you're not here to blabber about me to Kaiser, and so I can please my boss. Now scram, the sun is almost up. Sure. Thank you nevertheless, even if just to piss you off some more. Anything else I should know? I don't know how practicing you are, not even Father Leonard knows. But in an hour of peril, keep Saint Jude, the patron saint of desperate causes, in mind. I'm not even religious really, but in my darkest hour someone told me to keep him in mind. And maybe I wouldn't be here if he didn't. So, I might be totally wrong. It is entirely possible. Maybe this Ecaterina is really just some girl from Ostrava, some Hanna Urbanova, and she met Christoph, and Christoph, considering what he's lived through, told her about Saint Jude, keep him in mind, and so on and so forth. But really, that Saint Jude reference, really, come on, it has to be Aneska. That's what I believe. I believe this Ecaterina is Aneska, definitely, because Saint Jude simply wouldn't have been that important to any other character. I feel like no other character in this universe would have mentioned Saint Jude. Not in this context, not in the context of Julia, get out of New York, go to the Anarch Free States, New Carthage, go there. That way you and your mortal can live together in peace and love and all that romantic stuff. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I could be definitely wrong. Maybe it's not Aneska. Maybe this really is someone else, and Christoph and Aneska are working together, shall we say, to have eyes and ears everywhere. That is also entirely possible. But nevertheless, even if this is not Aneska, then at least what we can take from this is that Christoph and Aneska are still together, spending eternity together. And that is really a beautiful, beautiful thought in the world of darkness. Alright, so there we go. Thank you very much for listening. Let me know what you think. I personally think this Ecaterina is Aneska. Take care, have fun, and don't forget to play.